Ugandan lives matter more than MTV's Africa Music Awards and human rights in Uganda. Dear world, due to the massive blowback on social media and elsewhere, MTV has today postponed the Africa Music Awards, the MAMAs, originally scheduled to take place in Uganda, on February 20, 2021. Here is why I think MTV needs to move beyond a mere postponement. As you read this text, Bobiwine, Uganda's most popular artist, has his entire musical team being tried in military court. These include the producer of his most popular songs, Sir Dan Magic, and his longtime singing partner, Muwonge. They were arrested on December 30, 2020, together with more than 150 others, while on Wine's presidential campaign trail. Wine was later placed under illegal house arrest for 11 days for opposing, in a national election, the president who has ruled Uganda since 1986. Wine's associates are treated as enemies of the state. They are kidnapped from their homes, some in the middle of the night, and also from their workplaces. Some are never seen again, found murdered, or left with permanent injuries. COVID as a pretext to curtail rights. In March 2020, Uganda introduced a total lockdown due to COVID-19. The country today remains in partial lockdown, meaning that activities, including concerts, remain banned. A curfew also applies between 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. COVID-19 has been used to further violate Uganda's constitution and the rights of Ugandan citizens. On November 18, 2020, Wine was brutally arrested while campaigning, and the government used COVID-19 as an excuse. He was imprisoned for several nights without trial, which agitated his followers who peacefully protested. Sadly, more than 55 unarmed civilians were massacred in 2 days by the government's security forces. The government did not show remorse and even threatened to kill more civilians if they protested again. On the other hand, government supporters were free to hold huge gatherings as well as music concerts during the entirety of the campaign period. Why artists should not attend an MTV Awards show in Uganda? Wine has not been allowed to hold a concert in Uganda since 2018, the year the government also tried to assassinate him. His concerts were often broken up by heavily armed security forces, before being banned from performing altogether. His music has also been outlawed on Uganda's media. The government has also been trying to introduce laws that would further curtail his music. They would, inter alia, need to authorize the lyrics of a song before being produced and aired. Having curtailed most channels of freedom of speech, these measures are intended to further entrench the Museveni dictatorship. Uganda also imposes a so-called social media tax, which is needed to access Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and other apps. And currently, access to social media, without a VPN, is limited after the recent presidential elections, which resulted in a nationwide internet shutdown for 5 days. Before organizing or taking part in an event in collaboration with the Ugandan government, ask yourselves, have the COVID-19 regulations in Uganda been changed? Will they only be suspended for the MTV Awards? And if so, why? Could Bobiwine and his jailed colleagues be invited to perform? And if not, why won't the government allow his voice to be heard? Also, reflect over what inspiration you can derive from Fela Kuti. It is the same inspiration that Wine carries for millions of Ugandan youths, and across Africa. Do not let down their aspirations for genuine democracy, equality and justice, human rights, and the rule of law. Wine has used his voice and his music to speak for those without a voice. It is only morally right if his voice is thus amplified. To MTV executives, you, as well as a host of American artists, have stood with the people during the ongoing Black Lives Matter protests. For friends from Nigeria, your artists stood with the people during the #EndSARS protests. For friends from South Africa, music played a major role in your fight to end apartheid. Music can also contribute to Uganda's quest to end oppression. Most of all, know that with the current status quo, Wine may never again stage a concert in Uganda. You may not think about Uganda very much after MTV has left and the party is over. Nevertheless, do not be surprised if the next time you do hear about my country, it may very well be about the government trying to kill Bobiwine, as was the case in 2018 and during the recent presidential campaigns. Please do not reward this egregious behavior by holding the MTV Music Awards in Uganda until necessary reforms take place and until our basic human rights are respected. This article is written by Joko, a Ugandan human rights and pro-democracy activist who wishes that his last name remain anonymous. Article from Vanguard Africa or the Vanguard Africa Foundation. On the same issue, when you go to CC, there as well an article on that says MTV postpones its Africa music, 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 MTV postpones its Africa Music Awards as Bobiwine's team releases 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 report documenting alleged abuses report documenting alleged abuses report documenting alleged abuses report documenting alleged abuses by Owen McSweeney. CNN says, after an online campaign urging MTV Base to cancel its annual MTV Africa Music Awards over allegations of human rights abuses by the Ugandan government, the TV channel postponed the awards Thursday, which was due to be held in the East African country's capital, Kampala. It was painful to see MTV was being used to sanitize the oppressive regime here in Uganda, said presidential candidate Bobiwine during a news conference Thursday. I am glad MTV is also seeing it and acting in respect of all the rights of artists. It would be such a shame for the MTV Music Awards to be held in Uganda under gunpoint. MTV Base did not give a reason for the postponement. When asked whether the decision had anything to do with the alleged human rights abuses, a communications director at Viacom, MTV's parent company, said, "We have nothing further to add." Before Thursday's news conference, Wine's legal team issued a 50-page report collating allegations of apparent abuses, human rights violations, and irregularities relating to the national elections on January 14. Wine, whose real name is Robert Kyagulanyi, has repeatedly said his team would release evidence of his claims of ballot stuffing, military coercion of voters, and illegal casting of votes. The report listed allegations of intimidation and violence reported on by media outlets, including CNN, and posts shared by Ugandans and opposition party officials. CNN could not independently verify those posts. Wine's U.S. legal representative, Bruce Afran, wrote that Wine's party, the National Unity Platform, was unable to prove excess votes at polling stations because they say their data and laptops were confiscated in a raid on their party headquarters. Uganda's longtime leader, President Yoweri Museveni, was declared the winner for a record sixth term, amid an internet blackout and allegations of abuse. In an address to the nation days after being declared winner, Museveni dismissed allegations of vote rigging, saying this was the most peaceful election Uganda has ever held since independence from Britain in 1962. Wine's legal team claims that the Electoral Commission's final report on the outcome of the election, which shows 100% voting returns for Museveni in hundreds of districts and near 100% in hundreds more, shows a clear pattern of falsified voting. Wine said the report was sent on Thursday to the European Union, the European Council, the United States Department of State, and the foreign ministries of several countries, including the UK, France, and Australia. CNN has contacted Museveni's office for comment on the 50-page report and MTV's postponement. Wine filed a petition on Monday seeking to nullify the re-election of Museveni. Check out this channel, JB, for more updates.